Today I'm going to show you how to install a Ram Mopar fifth wheel puck system for a fifth wheel hitch in a Ram 2500. Let's check this out. So you have a 2014 to a 2024 Ram 2500. You want to pull a fifth wheel, but you don't have a hitch set up. I'm going to show you what it takes to install a fifth wheel prep package in a truck that did not come with it. And unfortunately, my Ram does not have fifth wheel prep, so I'm going to install it. I just ripped out the bed liner, and now I'm going to install the factory Mopar fifth wheel prep package. Everything laid out. This is the K68307-8AB kit for the Ram 2500 for the fifth wheel prep. So this is not going to be for the faint of heart. I've even getting a little bit nervous about drilling the 4 holes in the bed. It's not going to be ideal, but it is what it is, and it's going to have to work. And I know what some people are thinking, why don't you have a spray and bed liner versus just doing drop-in? Believe it or not, in a lot of ways, I like drop-in bed liners better than a spray and bed liner for 2 reasons. Number one, I like being able to slide stuff across the bed. You can do it with a drop-in liner versus spraying. Number 2, dent resistance. I've had issues with spray and bed liners in the past where getting gouges and just not holding up. I don't mind it. I think it looks really nice. But for what I'm doing here today, I'm going to run this and I'm going to be happy with it. So preference there. We're also going to be drilling a hole in here, fifth wheel plug-in. So like I said, not for the faint of heart. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. But I'm going to take a whack at it. It doesn't look that hard. I've watched a bunch of other videos. Okay, got the rear brackets on both sides now installed. If you notice a lot of WD-40, I actually had to clean the factory threads out on each side. I don't know if it was over paint or a little bit of corrosion, but I had to clean out both sides before I could bolt that in. This main puck system, to install it, there's a few tricks. You don't have to pull the body up. I did not lift the body up at all. So I just want to let you know, you don't have to do that. What does help a lot though, this bad boy and a universal will help that quite a bit. Now onto the front, it's a lot harder up front. Not a lot of space between the gas tank. This mount sandwiches right up there next to that cross member on both sides. That's a lot harder to do, and you can't get in there to clean the threads out. So that's the worst one, is the front one. You'd find it a lot easier if you just remove the spare tire. So just keep that in mind. And I already had the heat shield off because this had an aftermarket exhaust on it. So made it a lot easier to get to both sides in the rear. You can't see the front mount, but that's the rear mount to hold the rear puck. The front is actually a little further up. Now got both front brackets and both rear brackets installed with the cross members across the side. Okay, so this is where things start getting real. And if you're not capable or interested in doing this, have someone else do it because you don't want to screw it up. You see the vehicle forward position. You gotta look and see, do you have the 6'4" box or the 8-foot box? You have a measurement of 24.25, and then you have to center that basically in the middle of the area that is stamped out for. This is where you wanna measure 3, 4, 5, 10 times before you drill a hole. Then once you do that, set your pilot hole, make sure your pilot hole is centered. There's so much variation in the boxes and the hitches and all the stack up. You want to take your time to do this right, because otherwise you could be off center. I'm not super excited about doing this, but I got to complete the project. So I'm first going to measure off of this front edge here with my square, and then I'm going to measure in to that to 24.25. Then I'm going to center off that line. I'm going to take a 1/4-inch drill bit, set my pilot, then make sure my pilot is centered in the puck. If the puck looks good, then I've got my 3 3/4-inch hole saw, going to drill a hole and hope for the best. The instructions say that you have to go off the edge of the structural brace. So I'm going across 3 of these, and you can see there's a little bit of like play. So you want to kind of get that to the tip. And then from there, I'm going to take my measuring tape and go from there to 24.25 to right in there. And hopefully we're centered. So I've got my mark at 24.25 with the Sharpie right there. If you don't have a center punch, this is a perfect tool, so you can see my mark. I'm just gonna press this down. Now it'll be easier to set my drill bit there. For my 1/4-inch pilot hole, we're gonna go see how this looks down below and see if it's centered. And what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna set a light on top of this and see if I can see it centered down below. So this is why I wanted to try the light. Look at the center of that light and look where the puck is. It looks like it's not centered. So it kind of gives us a little indication. I need to go back a little, but yet I did it 24.25 inches, but I'm still gonna go back some. Here comes the moment of truth. We're going to set our pilot hole. You can see the hole I'm trying to cut. Man, I've really been struggling. I got that hole saw plus that one. I don't know if either these drills are not strong enough, but I've been using WD-40 as a cutter, but I even cut holes around, put drill holes around it to see if that helped. So I got to mark out that one, that spot up there, that spot there, that spot there. I've already got the 4 pucks underneath installed. Okay, first one's done. Unfortunately, I'm off center about 1/4 inch. But the beauty is, now this will all get cleaned up. I just kind of want to show you. But the beauty is, once they set this ring in there, it's not an issue. It centers up just fine. No issue. So anyhow, I measured 3 times. Even then put the light down below, and it was still off. The directions were not accurate. It said to take a straight line right off this, and it's not. If you look, it's off about 1/2 inch. So now I got to figure out how to do that one. Okay, good news. All 4 pucks installed, all 4 holes drilled in the bed. I started with this one, really struggled. I went by the directions on the centering of it, and as you can see, it was off about 1/4, 3/8 of an inch. Good news is it doesn't matter because the beauty rings will still make it match. It's just optically, I don't like the look of it. I wish it was more centered. Like these other ones look a lot better, but the rings that come with it work. I also installed my 7-pin. That's really easy. Just drill a hole, come right through the side. I would recommend though, if you have a 19 Ram like mine, I wouldn't put it in this spot. There was a brace behind this piece of sheet metal that we had to go through also. So that kind of stunk. I went through that spot because that's what E-Trailer video showed. I'm telling you, I would not go here because look up underneath the body panel. I didn't even question it. I just figured, well, these guys know what they're doing. That's not a great spot. I would try to find a different spot. I don't know if maybe up here, over there, but definitely go up underneath the truck and look and see if there's a better spot. Regardless, it connected fine. Ran the wire. We actually had to run the wire up along underneath on the top of, on the back side, and grab a hand and come through here and then come down in the spare tire to hook the T connection up to the original factory 7-pin. So that's all good. Now would be a point where you've got 1 of 2 options. We're really 1 of 3. You can just not run a bed liner. You can put, I'm going to run my plastic bed liner because I already got it and I just don't really care to spend the $600 in getting a Line-X done. And plus, I'm kind of a weirdo. I actually prefer plastic bed liners more than a Line-X bed liner or rubberized bed liner because I like extra dent protection. So I'm going to rerun those, and so I'll have to drill 4 holes in them for that to fit as well as that. But this, anyhow, I washed the inside of the bed. I want to cover up any of the potential areas where rust might come through, and then put your bed liner on or send it to a company to get a spray and bed liner. So since I decided to reuse the factory bed liner that came with the truck, I cut out these squares. Actually, the truck actually came with a template. It's perfect because the Pullrite Superglide is actually, it needs to touch further in the middle. Now, the question is, it doesn't have a spot open right there, but that's easy because I'm gonna take a measuring tape and measure 30 1/4 inches center of this. That will be the center of the puck up front. And then I can kind of make the same pattern. So I'll do that right now. All right, there's the final product, guys. I touched up all the paint. I decided to do some black paint just to kind of protect, and it matches the bed liner. I've siliconed all 4 of the plug covers, the beauty rings down. I'm gonna let those set, and you don't have to do that. I just kind of want them to hold in place. They're kind of loose otherwise. I was kind of surprised by that because the Ford ones fit pretty tight around the hole. But anyhow, those are done. Got my outlet in the side completed, and next up is putting the hitch in. All right, guys, there's the final product. Got the 24,000 pound Pullrite Superglide mounted in the bed of the Ram. So, some thoughts on this whole thing. It's a lot of work. Definitely ask yourself, do you want to take the time of installing the puck system? If you're hands-on, DIY capable, no problem. The other thing that's interesting is I have the same hitch for my last F350, but the Ford specific one. The Ram Pullrite, because of the factory puck system, is literally almost double the size. You use up so much bed space with this hitch, which is kind of a little bit of a bummer how much room it uses. But for these Ram short beds, I'm not taking a chance of smacking a cab corner in my truck. So this will work just fine for my needs. All right, let's compare the size of the Ford Superglide hitch versus the Ram for size comparison. All the way to the edge there, all the way in. I'm about 32 inches wide. And just for perspective, you can see the model this is. Okay, I said the Superglide for the Ram puck system was 50% wider. Not 50%, but darn we're 30% bigger. 42 inches wide. It takes 10 inches more of bed space this way, plus it takes about another 6 inches that way. So it takes a lot more real estate to use the Superglide system in the Ram truck. So then the question you want to ask me is, why the heck did you go with this massive monstrosity, super complex auto sliding hitch for the Ram 2500? A few reasons. Number one, I've had the Superglides and they work awesome. There's a peace of mind that comes with them that to me is worth it. I don't have a lot of experience pulling fifth wheels and I just don't have experience pulling gooseneck trailers. So knowing my limits, I don't know them and I'd rather not crunch the cab corner of my truck. But there's two other big reasons why specifically on the Ram, I went with the Superglide versus a Gen Y gooseneck. Number one, I have a Grand Design with a Lippert frame. You can use a Gen Y gooseneck hitch, which is awesome. You got all kinds of real estate in the bed, but then you lose your warranty from Lippert and Grand Design. I don't want to deal with that crap with not having a warranty if an issue comes up, because all you got to do is Google search this issue and there's all kinds of people complaining about this. And I've listened to the engineers talk about this issue and it sounds like the Gen Y design, the executive gooseneck design, puts a little bit more stress because it's a little bit longer, I guess, than the stock pin box that Grand Design and Lippert have designed to. I don't really care to get into all the minutia of that. That's for other videos and people are already talking about that, but I just don't want to deal with that. Secondly, and this is the biggest reason why, there's a downside to the Ram short bed. It's a big one if you're going to be fifth wheel towing or gooseneck towing with a Ram 2500 6'4" box versus the Ford 6'8" or 10 and the GM 6'8" or 10. That extra 4 to 6 inches comes between the axle and the cab. So you get 4 to 6 inches more clearance on the GM and of the Ford short bed trucks, which gives you a huge impact on your turning radius when you jackknife a fifth wheel. And I'm going to show you, Pullrite actually provides some of this data. Just for clarification, I did not want to use the Pullrite Superglide. I looked at almost every hitch I could consider that would give me clearance for a short bed truck, but I didn't want a manual slider. I've had friends that have had them and they seem to be a pain to deal with. You got to remember to put them in the front or rear position. I didn't want to deal with that. So I was either going to go with a slider again, an auto slider like a Demco or a Pullrite, and I didn't want to deal with the Demco. The other option was I started reading about Anderson Gooseball. Then I was looking at Gen Y. And then I saw the issues where you can't get the warranty and with the Gen Y. And then I came across these Goosebox designs. I'm like, these are kind of cool. And you can get this super light design for the Ram. And it's like an Anderson. You know, you got the inverted gooseball design, but it's a little stouter. It's not aluminum, and I like that. But this is where Pullrite gave me the information to basically say, no, I'm good. I don't want to take a chance. If you scroll down on their website, they took all three of the trucks, Ram versus Ford versus GM, and they included 4 different positions. They did the 5th OEX, which is a non-sliding hitch, on all 3 trucks with a short bed. Look at the angle of the Ram versus the Ford versus the GM. GM is clearly much better. Then if you put it in the rear position, you pick up 7 degrees for the Ram, 10 degrees for the Ford, 14 degrees for the GM. And then the third position is do the 3.5-inch adapter in the forward position. And then the second is the rearward position with the 3.5-inch adapter. This to me was the tell. With 2 steps of pushing the ball backwards, almost 7.5 inches, a 4-inch plus another 3.5-inch adapter, I go from a 49-degree to a 65-degree angle. That's still, you could get in some jams where you still wouldn't have enough angle. And I look at the Ford, and man, the Ford in basically the standard position was almost as good as the Ram with an extra 7.5 inches of clearance. This is due to Ford and GM having longer beds than the Ram, but also the cab positioning and how they've designed this. But look at the differences, though, between Ram, Ford, and GM. Clearly, GM crushes it in this area. But this was the tell of when I'm like, man, I'm not even taking a chance. I'm going right back to the Superglide. Hey, I hope you found this video helpful to installing a factory puck system on a Ram 2500, as well as looking at some different hitch options, and maybe it can help you. If you liked the video, feel free to like it. If you really liked the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.